if it's a mute everybody except Andy or what. I hear about 30 different versions, all one right after.
Yeah, there's not a lot of synchronous. I got the wrong word, but there's not a lot of, it's not together.
Yeah, I think even if we tried to, the timing from different places on different shots, mediums would not allow us to sync up. Any agenda adjustments?
I don't have any this evening.
Are you going to discuss under superintendents or something, the CPT meeting?
Well, I thought we could do it under 5.6.
Okay.
Yep.
That'll work.
Yep.
Okay. So at this time, then we'll move into 2.1. A motion to approve the minutes of the October 28, 2020 Board of Directors meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Who moved it?
Vicky moved it.
Vicky.
Probably
Yep.
seconded.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion? Comments, corrections? Hey, seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
All right. It has to be a roll call vote. Bob,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Dory is not here. Andrea is not here. Joe,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
and Joan.
I don't see Joan. Wait.
Nope, Joan has disappeared. All right. Okay. Motion does carry.
I still gave us 5 with 2 Sabatis, right? Yeah, Jen and
Well,
Rob.
three Sabatis. So
But at least 2 Sabatis.
Yeah.
5 with 2 Sabatis gives us a quorum.
Yep.
I believe.
I can hold on. Let's just make sure the numbers are correct here.
We need a quorum in voting power and a quorum in numbers. 5 is the numbers.
Yeah, we have a quorum in numbers, in voting power and numbers. We're at 561 in voting powers, and the max is 997. So
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Very good. And then that motion passes.
yes, motion carries.
We'll move on to petitions and communications.
I have none this evening.
I don't have any either to come to the board.
Nope.
Okay, then report, superintendent's report.
All right, so we'll talk about some other stuff later, but just briefly, the CPT, the collaborative planning team, did meet today. We'll update you that. Kathy and I and Bob was there, is the board liaison there. We'll update you on that under 5.6. I will say obviously we're in remote right now. And that was a tough decision to make, but I can tell you, I will update you on all of that under 5.6. But that seems to be going pretty well. Meal delivery is going fantastic. I will tell you, having been remote in the spring, we learned a lot, and so we were able to get meal delivery off the ground very quickly. Glenn and his staff and Scott and all of them worked really hard to make sure that would get out. So we're delivering almost daily. So just so you all are aware, board members, this is going to staff too, but because of the new affirmative action laws and the affirmative action policies that we passed, we got to do a gender equity training. And so that will be coming. We actually, Sam is our affirmative action officer. We've purchased a training from Drummond Woodson to be able to do that. So I'll be pushing that out to all of you at some point to watch. And sign off on, and that has to go to everybody in the district. Other than that, we do have an appointment, Jasmine LaBelle, an ed tech at Libby Tozier School. We have a resignation, Zach Miller, a teacher at Oak Hill Middle School. And then we have a retirement, and I just want to take a moment. Kathy Jem, who is the administrative assistant in the guidance department at the high school, is retiring. Kathy's been with us for 31 years. She started with us in 1989. I had the pleasure of meeting Kathy when I worked at Oak Hill High School in the early 2000s. She is fantastic, and the service that she has given to these three communities is unparalleled. I will miss her. I know Marco. I can't speak for Marco, but I know he feels pretty strongly about the work that Kathy has done. She is so good with kids and great at her job. We will miss her, but all good things do come to an end at some point, and Kathy has made the decision to retire, and I wish her well in retirement. So, other than that, that concludes my report.
Any questions of the superintendent? All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to Kathy, the CAI report.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind you that our Portrait of a Graduate project is going to kick off tomorrow on November 19th at 6 p.m. It is obviously going to be a Zoom meeting. And Andy, Marco, Tony Lucchini, and I will be presenting through that process. And we have invited all our community members. We did identify certain stakeholders and snail mailed an invitation to them of different various stakeholders in our three communities. And ultimately, we're looking to understand the why in our landscape shifts and identify competencies to reach our vision of inspiring our students for future success. So we're going to talk about the landscape shifts that have happened over the last couple decades and what could that mean for our students in their future. After that event, we will also ask students at Oak Hill Middle School and Oak Hill High School for their feedback, as well as all RSU4 staff to give their feedback and their ideas on their competencies. We will then have a follow-up meeting in December to look at those competencies after all of that feedback and start working on our portrait of our graduate. So we'll keep you updated on what that looks like. We'll share what those competencies were from all the feedback. And then we'll formally give you a kind of like a plan of action by March and April. So just wanted to let you know that this was the project that we were supposed to start in March, actually, ironically, the week that we shut down during COVID. So this was already in the works and we kind of pressed pause, and now we're resuming our project. It's looking a little different, obviously, through Zoom rather than in-person meetings. But we're very excited about the project and look forward to continuing it.
All right, any questions? All right, hearing none. We don't have any principals report.
Nope.
Yeah, I thought the last meeting, we only had a couple because there was parent teachers or Zoom meetings going on.
Jamie and Michael weren't here, but if you'd like to hear from them, I'm sure they could provide you a little something tonight.
If they could, just because we didn't get their monthly report at the last one. So this was just kind of just something brief. What's going on? How's it going? Especially now that things have changed a little bit since 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Hi, good evening. So we were pretty well prepared. We'd shared our schedule a week or two beforehand to switch into remote learning. So we had that schedule ready to go. People have done a great job stepping in and kind of switching to that overnight, which is a little bit different than last year. Well, I guess last school year. That's going okay. Similar challenges to before as far as getting on Zooms with parents who are working and whatnot, but we're working through some of that. A lot of communicating between teachers and students. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. It's kind of remote learning is what's in the buzz. I can't share any fun parent nights we've had or anything like that right now. I don't know if Michael wants to add anything else either. He is on here.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of great engagement that I've heard from staff with our students, since we've gone remote. And we're in this, and it's, we're just part of a team, really. And I think things are going well right now. We're doing the best we can. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Then we'll move along. No student rep report tonight?
Nope.
Okay. Are there any other reports?
I have none.
Okay, so then we'll move to 4.7, which is comments from the floor / public comment period. I'll remind those that this is an opportunity for the public to comment on their school system. We do not allow for comments that are derogatory towards particular individuals. We don't identify particular students. And if there might not be any conversation, back and forth discussion, this is a place for comments and not discussion. If you have an issue, you can certainly mention it. And if you think that you feel it deserves some discussion time by the board, then you can contact either the superintendent or myself as the board chair and ask that we put it on a future agenda and give us as much information as you can about it, so we'll have an idea and hopefully be better prepared when it does come up for discussion. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up, and you can either raise your hand, you can go to chat to get our attention, and then we will try and recognize you, and you can make your comments. So at this time,
Bob, sorry about that.
that's all right, go ahead.
Well, we do have someone, Laura Clifford is asked to speak, so she is here. So there you go.
Hi, thank you, Andy and Bob. So I do have a quick little letter that I typed up today that I just would like to share. So I'll try not to take too much time. So I wrote that I write to you as a parent of 2 children attending school at Carrie Ricker. My husband and I are full-time employees at a local hospital healthcare facility. We have continued to be essential workers through this pandemic and had significant stress added to our workloads from multiple directions. We also do not have a daycare option, and honestly, most daycares in our area are full anyways. Probably like most parents, I want my children enrolled in school and offered a full-time in-person instruction. Like many in our community, I lack the support to successfully homeschool or support my children in their online education. I often listen in on their Zoom meetings that they're having, as I'm partially working remotely as well. My kids are not always able to be home due to my schedule. When they are not home, they are being cared for by their grandparents that are in their 70s. No discredit to the older generation. Or they are home alone with a 10-year-old having the responsibility of helping his 8-year-old sister with her Zoom. This is our life in 2020, and many other parents like us. The kids' teachers have been fantastic, and a shout out to Mrs. Lau in 3rd grade, Mrs. Gilliam 5th grade, and Mr. Ireland in 5th grade. My 3rd grader loves field hockey and dance. She's a kind soul and considerate of her peers. When she grows up, her dream is to become a physician. She came home from school with the following platforms: Google, Epic, Pearson, Freckle, Star, EasyCBM, Typing.com, Flipgrid, Coding, Prodigy, and Seesaw. May I remind you at this point that she's 8. Her teacher did include a list of websites, usernames, and passwords, and we all know the struggle with that. She continues to write and draw, and previously at SPS, she was in Gifted and Talented. This year, she comes to me. Sorry.
That's all right, take your time.
She comes to me in tears. Because it is 8:30 and her Zoom isn't working. Or she can't get those 4 shapes in the circle on her page uploaded because the boxes won't match. And she hates math because this always happens to her. My 5th grader is a different story. I tease that he lives in the basement. I actually emailed Andy the other day because I said if he lives in my basement forever, I'm going to sign him up to be a substitute teacher so he can go to school every day and learn. He has a list. He has a similar list of those platforms and expected to navigate throughout the day. I'll be honest, he's probably skipping these. I was spending 2 hours every afternoon trying to review his assignments and assist him with his questions. I can't keep up. I assume that everything's okay because I haven't heard from his teacher, but honestly, I'm not sure that's the case. How can she keep up with all of this? I honestly don't know where their time in the day is, and I'm not sure how teachers are expected to keep up with these items. We continue to feel the pressure from our peers, one by one signing up for private school, charters, pulling their kids completely. I feel that we're still very much in a reactive mode and strategically not communicating a future state. COVID is not going anywhere anytime soon, even when that vaccine does come out. As I speak to you tonight about my situation, some of my peers asked that I mention a few items of their concerns as well. Some of our concerns are regarding the attendance policy. We're barely making it, and with little to no notice of the fully remote learning plans, why are we expected to adhere to a district attendance policy? We're being sent attendance emails, and due to our schedules, our kids must learn remote in the evening hours or use weekends. Why is the district adding this unnecessary stress to us? The work is being completed, and we're not able to quit our job to join a Zoom or have internet issues, so we finish the work when we can. The organization that the district has provided has been subpar. I appreciate everyone's efforts in trying to get to a new normalcy or the best that we can, but these Zooms are not working. They're not being updated. The Seesaw classrooms are not coming through properly. The work isn't being posted at the same time every day. It's very difficult to stay positive and assist your child with their education when you feel like you're expected to log in every 5 minutes to check if there's work. The other concern that some of us parents have is the social media oversight. With Google Hangout, Google Hangout is provided on the school laptops, especially for the middle school and above. One concern is the unacceptable language and the fact that there is no paper trail. We assume that RSU has a handle on this, but really is it? Because it's never addressed. Don't even get me started on the food. I understand that there is a need in our community, but when we received that canned chicken, we tried to feed it to our animals and they wouldn't even eat it. I posted a link on my page, and I'm happy to share it with the rest of you as well, from the American Academy of Pediatrics on September 3rd, released a statement with 49 states reported their COVID-19 data for children. There were 680 cases per 100,000 of children in the population, a 0.7 hospitalization rate, and a 0.3 mortality rate, with 18 states reporting 0 child deaths. Our child population is 75,471,000 children. The American Academy of Pediatrics has put out several publications regarding meals, mental health, and education of our children and the importance of them being in school. I feel the district has tried to offer support to the parents and caregivers that did not want to have their kids attend in-person instruction, but I feel failed to those of us that do want this in-person instruction. We received a hybrid model. Our kids have worn their masks, their shields. They've adhered to everything you've thrown at us. We have tried. We've been patient, and we continue to plug along, but we are tired, confused, and frustrated. What is the point of having cohorts if one positive case comes up and the entire district is closed? We're all doing it. We're having play dates. We're playing sports. We're participating in Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, extracurricular activities, going to events because we need to interact and we need to live. We are also practicing hand hygiene and social distancing. The district has not done well with the community outreach since school started. The weekly Zooms that were at 9 o'clock have stopped, and the communication just isn't there. We're just trying to survive. Why are these numbers closing our school? A 0.3 mortality rate. When, why, and what is our future? I encourage my peers to share their stories with school board members as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your concerns. They are received and heard, and those things are being discussed quite often through the administration and even at the meeting we had earlier today. Any other comments?
I don't have any in the chat.
Okay. Just another second or two. Any other comments? All right, then seeing none, then we'll go on to old business 5.1. These are the policies some of which we looked at 3 weeks ago. So this is the second reading. So
Yep.
all of these were looked at before.
Yeah, and the changes have been made that were
Yeah, no-
recommended at the last board meeting.
So with that being said, I would entertain a motion that we approve for second reading the 5 policies listed in points 5.1 through 5.5. They are EBCB, EBCE, EBCF, EEA, and EEAEA. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Joan.
Hello?
Hi,
Hi,
Joan.
Joan.
Hi, Joan.
I've been on, please just listen a minute. It was very frustrating. I have been on mute and then unmute and mute. At times I could hear you very clearly, and obviously you could not hear me until now. So I hope I stay unmuted. That's what I called you about, Andy, that,
Oh, I'm sorry, Joan. I don't have my phone with me in this meeting. I'm sorry.
okay, well, anyway, that's what I called about, to see what
Okay.
was going on and to unmute me. So I hope I stay that way and I can communicate with the rest of the school board. Thank you. I was getting a little frustrated.
Okay, so any discussion on any of the policies for second reading?
Bob, can I just have a clarification of who moved and seconded? Because I felt like people talked at the same time.
Yeah, several did. So we'll say Vicky motioned it. And who wants to admit to second?
Robbie,
Robbie seconded. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, I'll take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Bob,
Yes?
Robbie,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
and Joan.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Move on to 5.6. This is an update on RSU 4 schools.
Yep. So I'll start, and I want to do this in two parts. So I'll talk about where we are now, how we got where we are, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kathy to talk about our CPT meeting today. So first of all, one of the things I have to apologize for, Bob pointed this out to me in my letter to the community. I left off an important letter. It should have said individuals and not individual. And so consequently, what I think the general public needs to know, it was not one case that shut us down. We had 9 student cases. And what happened was we had 9 student cases that crossed, that hit all of our buildings to some degree or another, and crossed our cohorts. And busing and all those things. And so because of that, not to mention the number of staff it hit with close contact, number of students, we made the decision that we would go fully remote until after Thanksgiving. And I just want to say to Laura, and I'm meeting with Laura, I think on Friday. My schedule's a little crazy, so I'm not sure. I get it. I totally understand. I have 4 children in my home myself, 2 of which have been home full time for the last 2 weeks. It is very difficult. So I need you all to know that making the decision to go fully remote was not an easy one to make. I believe kids should be in school. I really do. I believe we should have them in front of us. But out of trying to do the safest thing possible, we made the decision to shut down. And it was not a decision I made in isolation. We got together as a group to talk about it, but ultimately trying to do contact tracing so deep like that with so many cases that touch so many buildings in both cohorts was just not, it just got to be overwhelming. And then looking at coming into the holiday season, one of the things that's being discussed throughout the region, and I know Augusta School District has done it, is shutting down until after Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving, they're shutting down. I can't even remember.
I think it's a week.
It's a week.
Yeah, it's a week.
Yeah, and so we talked about the CDC. We had communicated with the CDC, and we just made the decision until after Thanksgiving. So, consequently, we're in fully remote right at the moment. The plan is to come back on the 30th. I am a little concerned. I don't know if anybody saw the governor's address today.
I did.
The numbers are
Yes, I did.
staggering. She said numerous times that that to keep our public, and I'm worried about this, to keep our public schools open, things have got to change. And so, I need you to know that I won't shut anything down. I won't go fully remote unless we absolutely have to, because I believe our kids should be in school. But if the governor makes that decision, we don't have a choice. That's out of our hands. So regardless, that's where we are currently. I think we were in a good position because of the work we did in the spring, the work we did this fall, to move into fully remote. It's not without its hiccups. It just isn't. This is not what we've done as an institution for the last 100 and something years. And so, we're learning as we go. I think we're doing a pretty good job, but there are always ways we can improve. And I'm always willing to listen to parents so that I can hear what their struggles are to see if there's a way we can, at least mitigate those. So consequently, we're having a lot of discussion. So I'll move it to Kathy now to talk about our CPT meeting. Just a reminder, the CPT is the collaborative planning team that is the one that reviews and kind of makes recommendations to you all with regards to what we're doing, educationally in a hybrid model, things like that.
So just to back up, so the CPT team met November 4th and then again today. And in between that, we have reviewed the parent survey. We got over 300 responses, as well as our staff survey. So we looked at all of that feedback and we discussed the hot topics that came out of those, as well as discussed anything that came up new and guidance from the CDC or the DOE. And since our time together, even since November 4th to the 18th, we had changes in the mass executive order. We had changes in the MAP, which is the fancy term for the nursing protocols in when we have a positive case in terms of the temperature change. So it moved from 100.4 to 100. Obviously talking about holiday travel as we are discussing that. And even in our holiday travel letter, we had about 5 drafts because we kept getting different guidance about what people would do when they left. And as you know, that even Massachusetts since 11/16 was removed from the list. So we continue to keep our documents updated as we're getting new information. Even the testing sites have increased since our November 4th one till today's. We've talked about little things like, how do we do winter gear? Where is that going to go? How it's getting colder, we're getting gloves and hats. And so when students are entering the bus and they have gloves, they're supposed to sanitize. How are they going to do that? So those are all like the little decisions that at the CPT team, we're talking about having to meet, again, those 6 criteria of health concerns that we have to meet in order to stay open. And so we kind of talk about how all of those standard operating procedures are affected by those 6 requirements. As well as the pre-screening tool, there's been some changes to that. So just reminding our staff and our students to continuously to do those pre-screening tools. Most of them have been really good about calling us or asking us questions if they have this symptom or that exposure. So we're talking about tracking when we have multiple students. Today, obviously, from November 4th to the 18th, we had our case, our positive cases. So we talked about what our protocol was, what went well, what are some of the things that we need to improve on. The CDC was very impressed with our protocols and how quickly we could respond with our contact tracing. And part of that was all of the hard work and pre-work that the team has done since June. There have been questions about things like late bus or aftercare. So those are kind of things that are still on the table that we still need to. Andy always reminds us that aftercare is not an RSU4 program, but it does use our buildings. So it is something in terms of building use and community use of our buildings is another topic that was discussed. So all of these decisions are going through the CPT team, kind of weighing through and seeing what we can and can't do. Obviously, right now we're remote, so all of these things are kind of on pause and there's not really decisions that need to be made. But as a CPT team, we're looking in terms of like late bus, what are those numbers look like? How does that affect our bus sizes? How many buses would we need in order to institute that service back up? Same thing with Tanya Willette is looking into providing services in maybe 2 towns, so we're not trading cohorts. So we are listening to the survey results. We are looking into some of those things. You know, the DOE is still charging us with having a, you know, as you heard with Laura this evening, talking about a re-entry plan. How can we get back? We need to start thinking about a re-entry plan or proposal, not necessarily strong with dates, but what would that look like? Whether that's this year or next year, what does that proposal look like? And the CP team is starting to discuss all of those pieces.
So if I may, I'm at the CPT meeting this morning, since it's the school board's policy that we went to these 4 cohorts, and that decision was made in August, first part of September, to move out of that would also be a school board decision based upon, as we did before, recommendations and guidance and other things, physical requirements. So the reentry plan is basically a 3-phase plan when the conditions allow. The goal that was discussed today and has stayed pretty steady is that we would bring the middle school and high school cohort D people back and put them in an A or B to start with. And then that would be followed by bringing the lower grades, D's, into their A and B's, so that we'd have the students in basically cohorts A, B, and well, it'd be A, B, and then C, which is those specifically identified students. And then once we've got them in there and conditions continue to improve so that we can bring everybody back for probably 4 days a week instead of 5, we would move there. And that's because it's going to take a lot of additional work on the staff when we bring people back that have been under different instructional models to get them back and get them together, so that we can bring the students back, get them up, and know where we are. We are still tied, as you all know. So unless there's going to be something put out, a newsletter will be put out that will talk about those 3 phases. So the board will have to always keep in mind that that's kind of how we're thinking. And if there's other ways to do it, it would be nice if we can maybe the board have that discussion. If there are other possibilities, and I'm sure we'll get some inputs on other ways to go. We're still tied. Initially, phase 1 and 2 is bring them into cohorts, and that's still because there are space limitations. We can't put 22 kids in a classroom. You know, we still have to have the mask. We have to have 3 feet separation. And while there has been very little community transmission happening within the schools, there has been some. The community transmission has been from outside and then brought into the schools. And all it takes is for it to go, whether it goes to staff members or goes to other students, and then continues on. So those are things that we were concerned about. We talked about today at the CPT when we came up. We decided we didn't want to publish any dates because we really don't know any dates when any of this is going to be possible. In all openness and transparency, the board could decide to completely eliminate remote learning for everybody and require all students to go back into school, either in a cohort A or B, because there is nothing that prevents us from doing that, even in a C or a yellow, in a yellow classification that we're in. If we were to move to red, we'd have to go, everybody would have to go to remote then. And I don't know where that break-off point would be by the state to move us from yellow to red. I don't think anybody knows. I think the state shudders to even try and come up with a set figure, because they don't want to have to do that.
Well, and I think they're struggling, Bob, with understanding community transmission rates, is what I hear, and that's been the difficult part.
Right, and it only takes 1 or 2 of our students to get seriously ill. We never want it to be our child. We never want it to be a friend of our child's. I know, it's a difficult choice, but that's the school board. That's why we get paid the big bucks. When you get that couple $100 check twice a year, that's what it's for. So those are things that we have to think about, and consider as we go forward. When can we begin these other steps? When will it be safe? We do have problems, as it was mentioned, and in all fairness, with some of our remote learners who may have just kind of checked out. So, there's a possibility that we will contact those, and maybe they need to come back in somehow so that we can make sure they're attending. So there's a lot of things that were discussed today. We met for 2.5 hours, somewhere around that, to discuss it. I'm sure we'll be meeting again.
We will be.
And,
Yep.
And this is an ongoing process. So that's just some additional information from the CPT today.
I think it's also important, you brought up a good thing, Bob, to talk about so Androscoggin County has gone to yellow. And I don't think Kennebec County is far behind. So basically, we're not in right now, but when we come back, basically that means for us, we need to be in a hybrid model according to the state, but it also means there are no after school activities, no sports and things like that right now. And so, consequently, we're going to have to keep an eye on those things. I didn't see I know what the number was for the state today, but I didn't see the Androscoggin and Kennebec County numbers. But I know the 2-week average has exponentially grown. I think there could be a scenario, where the numbers are so much higher even than they were in the spring, that a good part of the state could see a red designation coming up. I just think it, but I agree with Bob. I think they're struggling to even know what that threshold is, because we don't. And so consequently, I'm keeping my eye on all the DOE communications that come out right now.
Any questions on this topic? Okay. So we'll move on to new business 6.1. Recognition of the Oak Hill Legislative Assembly by the Spirit of America Foundation for outstanding community service. Marco, I believe might be your area. Or
Yeah,
just mention that we received it.
Yeah, no, that is correct. It's probably been a couple of months now that we had communication from the Spirit of America Foundation, and just the communication that they sent was that because of the wonderful work done by OHLA and with their holiday baskets, that they had received this award. They did send a little write-up, and Bob, you read it through one of your communication points again a couple of months ago, but I'm going to repeat it now. I think it's really important to hear, obviously the wonderful work that goes into this recognition. And I just want to say before I read that, it's always been a really powerful part of what makes Oak Hill High School is such a wonderful place. Just the community outreach and support to, anybody in need. There's a fair amount of student support to put these together, but also staff support. So I just want to thank them, obviously, for their hard work and their efforts. And obviously, I'm not the only one that has recognized this. So just as it reads here, the Oak Hill High School Legislative Assembly does projects to help its community. For example, during a recent year, the group organized a holiday food baskets program, which I just mentioned, which provided food to families in Litchfield, Wales, and Sabattis. Money to purchase the goods was raised by school dances, Teacher Jean's Day, Anonymous Community, and Teacher Santas, and advisory class donations. OHLA has raised enough money to help 21 families, which included more than 40 children in the community. Within the next year, the Legislative Assembly organized a toy drive and did other altruistic things too. So again, obviously that community service piece is huge, and really, no other time than now. People need that support. And it continues. They've set out a GoFundMe page where they're taking donations, and they're continuing to do, in their remote setting drives and such to collect donations so that they can make sure that we have them ready to roll for this school year. And we have with us Mr. Lucchini, Tony Lucchini, who is the advisor for OHLA. And he may not turn his video on only because if he's at home, his internet is wonky. So, yeah. But I didn't know, Tony, if you wanted to add something.
Oh, it's just it just every year it feels like the best thing I do all year. So it's just really a privilege to be a part of it, and it's great working with the kind of seeing the kids involved with it and seeing them have that experience is always wonderful.
Great, thanks,
Right.
Tony.
So congratulations to the students that were involved, and also to Tony as the advisor. It's one of those programs that we support as a board, and the community and the student support that serves worthwhile and provides worthwhile services in the community. So it's nice that they get recognized for that. That doesn't always happen. Some of you may remember Bruce Flannery, who made the presentation to the board about a year and a half ago, talking about us nominating somebody. That kind of fell through the cracks because of everything that went on in the spring. So they took it upon themselves to go out and do some internet researching of the school systems and see what was going on, and identified Oak Hill's work as warranting this recognition. So good job.
Well, and I would like to say too, having participated in the delivering of food baskets before, just the work that Tony does, the students do, is amazing to watch. And there's certainly, this is a big honor for them to be recognized, but I know that's not why they do it. They do it to take care of the community. So congratulations as well.
All right, thank you, Kylie, for the plug. All right, if there's no questions on that, then we'll move on to first reading of policies. So 6.2, entertain a motion to approve first reading of the following policy, KBF, parent involvement in Title I.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Joan, seconded by Vicky. Any discussions?
Well, and I will tell you all, these are boilerplate policies that we have to have to receive ESSA funds. So those are our Title I funds. We have to have these. You've seen these before. We've done these in my tenure since I moved to central office. We've been through, I think, 2 or 3 different ideations of these same policies, because every time we turn around, the federal government is changing the requirements. So
yeah,
we have to have these to receive our ESSA funds.
There's no other discussion, and I'll call for the vote.
All right, Bob,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
let's see here, Joe,
Yes.
Vicky,
yes.
and Joan.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Right, 3.2, entertain a motion to approve first reading of the following policy, KBF E123, school level parent involvement in Title I.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Joe and seconded by Vicky. Discussion?
Same thing as the one before.
Seeing no discussion, I'll call for the vote.
Bob,
Yes?
Robbie,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
and Joan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Move to 6.4, discussion regarding community use of facilities.
All right, so this is an item that has come up at the CPT team, and we felt like Bob brought up a good point. Community use of the facilities is a board policy to some degree. Our facilities have pretty well been shut off to the outside at this point, and I will tell you, I think this about me. I look at our buildings as community buildings. They are. I mean, they're our buildings. They're the RSU's buildings. But at the end of the day, as long as we can do our business, I want to let people use our buildings anytime we can. But at the same token, we're in a difficult time with regards to cleaning and sanitizing and things like that. And so, we had a long conversation at the CPT meeting at the last meeting about when do we start? Are we right now letting community use the facilities? And we haven't as of now. And, Bob thought this was a good discussion to bring to you all, and I don't disagree. I will tell you the CPT team is recommending that we not open up our facilities at this point, but for a host of reasons, and the big one really being, cleaning. We're having to do significant amounts of cleaning every night. But at the same token, they are community-based buildings, and I think it's a good place for you all to have the discussion about what we do moving forward.
Right, and so I thought that while we don't have to vote on any particular policy, we have policies out there for community use already. It's just a matter of our feelings on whether or not we can really support allowing our facilities to be used, because once we do that, we really can't restrict too much who uses them or for what, as long as they stay within the guidelines that we have out there, both our policies and legally. So it would kindly be, they would be available for use. My concern is that the amount of work and effort that it would take to sanitize the facilities, whether it's a classroom and the laboratory facilities, again, after the school day and after it's used or on the weekend, would put an exceptionally strong drain upon our custodial staff that's already working hard to keep things safe. So I felt that, in my opinion, for the board is that from my perspective, not speaking for the board, but from my perspective, that now is not the time to open up the buildings for community use. And I know that the question was up about youth basketball and other things, and that kind of what it came up. So Robbie, I see your hand.
Yeah, Andy, if we're designated yellow, we can't even use the facilities, right?
Right, exactly. So that's the other piece of this that I should have said. Right now, we're designated yellow. When we come, it's more about when we come out of yellow.
Right.
Yes. So
yeah.
And anyway.
But the reality of it is being in yellow addresses some things about the number of people that you can have in a space and things like that.
Right.
All right. But the yellow designation for the school affects the school programs.
Right.
So if there was a group of, let's say, Boy Scouts, since I was a Boy Scout, I'll use Boy Scouts.
Right.
A Boy Scout troop that has 10 boys and 2 adults, they have 12. That's under the 25 limit. I think it's what the new indoor limit is. Would they be able to use it because it's not a school function? It's just used in the school building. So it kind of gets into that, little hazy area.
It's a gray area.
Want to get in.
Yeah.
So Vicky, you got your hand up.
Oh, I think Jen was first.
Oh, I didn't see Jen. I'm sorry.
Thanks. I just, I listen, as probably almost everybody does, every day to different sorts of guidelines that have come down. I know that youth sports has been completely shut off statewide until, December 7th. And then that's going to be reevaluated. And I also know that there are very clear distinctions and guidelines about how many people can actually gather in places that aren't of immediate family. And I feel like, those sorts of criteria make our job much easier in saying that, no, we can't have that open now. And knowing, how hard the custodial staff works in the evening to begin with, and how far stretched they are having to do all of this. As much as I would love to say that everything could be open to serve people in the community, I don't see that being a reasonable option right now. Perhaps we come back and revisit this, as things start to be on the upswing of health and vitality as opposed to, community spread.
Okay, thank you. Vicky?
I agree with you, Jen, on everything you said. I'm a school secretary, and the district that I'm at, I'm the one who has to take care of all the contact tracing. Now, if we allowed people in after school hours,
Right.
I wouldn't be able to do that. And that would then fall on our custodians. And I don't think that's a job they need to be doing. So right now, I can't go with any after school activities for the community, unfortunately. And I mean, having done 20 years of rec in Litchfield, I'm a proponent for all of that. But right now, I just can't see that happening.
I agree with everything that's been said too. This is not the time to open up our buildings and not be able to know who's there and what they're doing and how they're feeling. We need to be cautious. So I would not welcome opening the schools for public use.
All right, any other board comments?
Robbie
Yeah.
has his hand up.
Yeah, I understand the COVID fatigue that people are running into. It's been a long year, but we don't live in a bubble. So when I hear people say that they're still doing Boy Scouts and they're still doing rec teams and they're still doing, just look at travel hockey. I mean, travel hockey inside of New England has been completely shut down because of the amount of cases that they had New England wide. So if you want your kids in school, I understand all that other stuff is important. Sports is, to me, is just as important as school. But if it came down to playing on a travel team and getting COVID or going to school, I'd want my kids to go to school. And I think it comes down to the fatigue factor. And I said right from when we started this hybrid, it's only going to be as good as what the community makes it. And if this is what we're seeing, that, and I understand the fatigue, it's hard, to, make sure that your kids aren't, going to the friend's house for Halloween. And if you look back, the timetable from Halloween till now, you're looking at that timetable for COVID and you're looking at a spike. So I understand nobody wants to give anything up, but in order to get what you want, sometimes you have to give things up. And if you want your kids in school, we're not in a bubble. We're the community, and that reflects back on us. So,
Right.
so at this time, I can't support any activities going on in our facilities.
All right, so that's all the board members except Joe. Do you want to add to this or?
Oh, everybody said exactly what I was thinking.
All right, so this was a discussion item. I
Yep.
think the message to the administration is the status quo where we are, is we're not opening up the buildings at this time for community use. Okay,
And I think this is something we'll be bringing back again at some point. And I just say this, and I want the general public to know this. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. You know, I am the biggest proponent for our buildings being used by the community. I mean, they are what our kids have outside of what they have at home. But I think you all make good sense, and I will follow through on that. So.
Okay, and we'll move on to 6.5, discussion regarding field trips.
Yeah, so this is the same kind of thing. You know, of course, we're in yellow right now, so that's something. But I think, you know, we had a conversation at CPT about, you know, are we going to do field trips right now? And I, you know, CPT team is recommending that we don't. I'll be honest, I'm recommending that we don't as well. I just think the idea of taking kids out into the community, I'm just not sure it's a good idea right now. But again, this is a board discussion because this does border on board policy. And so I think it's a discussion for you all. I love getting our kids out. I love getting them the opportunity to see things. Honestly, there isn't the same amount of things to see at this point. And now that we're coming into winter, the number of outside activities that we can do are shrinking. But at the same token, there's a liability factor that exists with us being the ones who take students out into the community. But I turn it over. What's that?
I said you locked up on us. We lost you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said I think there's a liability that exists for us by taking kids out into the communities, the kids and our staff. And so consequently, but I also know that this is not just a me decision. It's you all need to have a discussion about it. So I think just like our community use of facilities, it's the same kind of thing. Allowing people in, but now are we talking about taking our students out? So.
Yeah, I think this falls under the previous community use of facilities, and for the same reasons. I would not be in favor of field trips and taking our kids to different places where we would have, zero control over what's going on in maybe in different schools. And we already have some kids who are, testing positive. So no, I would be inclined to not go with field trips.
I don't want to make a bad situation worse.
I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't catch all of that.
I was just saying that it is the same as before. I feel like it's just going to make a bad situation even worse.
Okay, thank you.
I would agree. And I guess it's important for the parents who currently have students in school. I want them to know and understand, and I think Robbie and Vicky articulated it well, that we all had kids that went through. We hear your frustration with all of this, of not being able to have your children have access to various things. If I were in your place, I would be incredibly frustrated with all of this as well. But I feel like it's our responsibility in looking out for the greater welfare of our community, and especially our students and their education, that we are put in this unfortunate, I guess, depending upon how you look at it, place of responsibility to speak for the vast majority, to say, no, that's not a practical, nor is it a good idea for the general populace of the school to be going out into field trips or anything of that nature. It just isn't. It's not a sound, responsible choice for us to do right now.
Are there any other comments, board members?
Well, and if you don't mind, Bob, real quick, I'd like to echo what Jen said too. Being the parent, I have 4 children in my home, and it is really difficult, and I get it. And every day I think, gosh, when is this going to end? When are we going to get out of this? Because I've got 4 kids in my house, 2 of which had just coming off quarantine for being close contact. One whose school is closed, until the end of after Thanksgiving. and they're struggling just as bad as we all are, and it's a tough situation all around. So, you know, we're not immune. You know, educators are not immune to that either, and it's a tough one right now. It really is. So.
Okay, so I think you got a sense of the feeling.
I do. Yep. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we'll move on to committee reports. Item 7, facilities and Finance Facilities Committee typically votes the last meeting, but we only have one meeting this month. Is there anything to report?
I think you're muted, Robbie.
Robbie.
Can I speak?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, we
Okay, go ahead, Robbie. I'm sorry.
we didn't meet, but we are having a facilities meeting next Tuesday to go over the RFQs for the addition with the engineers. So we'll discuss some finance there and stuff like that.
Okay, good reading.
Yeah, good reading. Yeah.
All right. Personnel Policy Committee.
But we didn't have a policy meeting. But Jen, did you get to
Yes.
go for an interview?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Okay, and that was for the
Behavioral teacher at Carrie Ricker.
right. And that was the Jasmine LaBelle?
No.
No.
No, I haven't brought a candidate to you all yet for that position.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's where we are then. Nowhere.
And I will tell you, I emailed you some policies. I actually be emailing tomorrow to set up a policy committee meeting. So that's coming as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. CAI Technology Committee.
Yes, we met earlier this evening, and it was to basically get our feedback in regards to, this is the first year for the senior class that honors are not going to be part of it's not going to be a top 10 valedictorian, salutatorian status any longer. And they were presenting to us the Latin honors system and what they're proposing, and also the colors that would be associated with the various levels of cum laude, magna cum laude, and summa cum laude. So this will be firmed up and brought before the board probably within the next couple of months.
Okay. All right. Any board member comments? All right. So at this time, there's an executive session on the agenda. There is an action item followed, which may or may not happen. It would require a motion and a second. And then we would have a vote. If there's no motion or second, then we won't deal with it. I don't know what to expect coming out. Probably there will be action taken. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't try and put it on the agenda. But the executive session with the board, the superintendent, and our business manager will be closed. So all non-board members will be put into the waiting room. You can hang around. I have really no idea how long the discussion will take. Sometimes they're short, sometimes they go on for a while. But if you want to stick around and see if we do take action or what action we do take following that, when we're done with our executive session, we will come back into open session. We will admit everybody that's in the waiting room. They'll be able to stick around until the time that we adjourn. So with that being said, I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive session with the business manager, pursuant to 1 MRSA 405-6D, professionals negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
All right, Bob,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yes.
and Joan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So anybody that sticks around, we'll see you in a little while. If not, thank you for joining us. Stay warm, stay safe, and have a great day. What's left of it.